Dad was a huge movie fan, and he was also a Teamster. And I was the youngest of 9, so I would be home alone, and my dad would come home after working, and he'd be sitting there either drinking a Schlitz or a coffee brandy, and he'd say, let's go to the movies. The first movie he ever took me to was Hard Times with Charles Bronson. I was probably 7 years old at the time. Still remember it like it was yesterday. But when I started having success in music and modeling, I was approached to be in movies. Not to play roles that would have given me an opportunity to have a real career, but kind of one and done sort of thing. I was asked, the first role that I was ever offered was to play the white rapper in Sister Act 2. I was honored because I was a big fan of Bill Duke, who was directing the movie, so I had a good time meeting him, and I wrote a little rap about Wahlberg, but I declined that part. But then I had an offer to meet with Penny Marshall and Danny DeVito, and I was like, you mean Laverne from Laverne and Shirley? He said, yeah, she's in New York. I said, I loved her. I grew up watching her and Penny, and I just felt like, I wanted to meet them. So I showed up at the meeting in New York, and Penny and I started having a discussion, and she goes, why don't you want to act? You're acting anyway. You act like a tough guy. You should give it a try. And I was like, it's just the first time that I felt comfortable in the room. I could identify with them. They were neighborhood people from New York, and I'll let that slide, being a Boston guy. But I felt really comfortable with them. And 5 minutes after sitting there with them, I found myself going outside of the room with the sides, learning the lines, and I auditioned for 5 different roles that day. And then I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta get this part. She was nice enough to call me, to invite me to LA. I had to fly myself out to LA for a screen test. And it was a weird screen test. Penny is not your normal director. She had everybody else who was up for the part in the room, and everybody else who was up for every other part, because she was basically trying to find the right chemistry within the group of guys in the classroom, and the guys going through boot camp. So I remember fighting for that part. I finally got the part when I got the phone call. I was ecstatic, and from the first moment I walked on set, I realized that I had finally found my calling and my niche, and I didn't want to do anything else. And I would literally be on set every single day because I wanted to understand everybody's job. Where it was in front of the camera, behind the camera, and then after that it was Basketball Diaries, and I never looked back. I mean, I only did music after that overseas because I never wanted to take a movie for a paycheck. I only wanted to find roles that would continue to allow me to slowly grow as an actor. And so I would run around overseas and, rap, and then I would come back here and pursue my passion and my dream, which is to become a respectable actor.
Did you encounter roadblocks or resistance? Because I know Hollywood loves to typecast people.
Many. It happened all the time. That my second role was directed by the late great Scott Calvert of Basketball Diaries, and Leonardo DiCaprio and I had a weird run-in at a MTV Rock and Jock basketball game, and I was performing in my underwear at halftime, and I think I blocked his shot. I was a punk. I was a prick, so I was not nice to Leo that day. And then Scott Calvert came to me and said, and he'd only said this to 3 artists that he worked with. He said it to Tupac, Will Smith, and myself. He goes, you guys should be actors, and you will be actors. And so he was directing Basketball Diaries. He called me in for an audition. Leonardo said, no way, I'm not making a movie with Marky Mark, as did a lot of other people. And so I continued to audition. A.D. Kaufman, who was the casting director, I auditioned for her, and then everybody just started to come in town and watch me audition. They thought it was very entertaining. I remember Chris Blackwell, who owned Island Films and Island Records, found Bob Marley. He literally came from Jamaica to watch me audition in New York. So finally they convinced Leo to read with me, and of course, I show up 8 hours late. By accident, I was going to New York. I was in New York, and it was going to be a snowstorm, so I said, let's go to Puerto Rico for the weekend with my entourage, right? So we fly to Puerto Rico. My flight gets canceled. I show up late. He's sitting there pissed. I mean, we're going to the audition. He's sitting there pissed. And I didn't feel like he was necessarily the right guy for the part either. He was, because he's not a New York street guy, basketball player, street legend. I was like, this dude, I've seen him play ball. So we both had a bit of a chip on our shoulders, and then, we started reading the scenes, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, oh shit, this dude's good. And he said, oh my God. So that day, they gave me the part in the room. We became fast friends, and he actually, he was having a meeting with James Foley shortly after we shot the movie. James Foley directed me in Fear. So he says, I'm not really right for this part, but you should hire Mark Wahlberg. And he said, who's that? He goes, you know, this is going to sound crazy. You know the rapper Marky Mark Fuller goes, what? Are you mine? He goes, no, you should hire this guy to be in the movie. So Foley, just out of curiosity, had a meeting with me because neither Renaissance Man or Basketball Diaries had come out yet. So Foley meets me, we have an 8-hour meeting in New York, we have a blast, we hang out. By the time I get back to my house in New Jersey, the phone's ringing. He goes, dude, I just want to tell you something. I had a blast hanging out with you. There's no way I can put you in the movie, but I still want to be your friend. I said, no problem. I wouldn't have hung out with you for 8 hours if I wasn't having a great time. Don't worry about it. It's your movie. Do whatever you got to do. And then out of guilt, he felt, well, I'll let him audition for one of the sidekick parts. I auditioned. The sidekick parts didn't even have any lines, so I had to read for the main role. After the audition, he literally called Brian Grazer in Universal and he said, I'm not making this movie without Mark Wahlberg starring in it. And then Brian Grazer was like, what the heck is this? I've never met the guy before. We've never seen him in a movie. You know, this is a fairly expensive movie. But I met and faced many roadblocks. And you know what? Those are things that I understood completely and I didn't mind because I was in it for the long. Sorry, it's a lengthy answer to your question. But
that's what they're not
if
here
nobody
to do.
else, I find these stories fascinating because I try to encourage people that, you know what? Don't take no for an answer. You know, you gotta just keep working hard. You know, if one door doesn't open, you keep going. If you don't try hard enough, you know, if you put it all out there and it doesn't work out, then at least you feel good about the effort. And if not, you'll always feel like, well, I could have done more.
Well, obviously you and Leo, you call him Leo, Mr. DiCaprio, on the Basketball Diaries. But was there a point when you got the Oscar nomination for The Departed where you were like,
no, because he got nominated for Blood Diamond that same year, so it was good. Yeah. I think he could have easily gotten nominated for The Departed as well, when they were competing against each other. But it was a very nice gift sent by both Matt Damon and Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson sent me a beautiful bottle of champagne and a very nice letter. And so that was special. And I remember telling my dad, who was never impressed with the paychecks when I started to become more and more successful and I had box office successes. It wasn't until I had gotten nominated for the Oscar for The Departed when he said, now you can consider yourself a real actor. And then he told me, you know, how he would watch the Academy Awards every year when he was a kid and how much it meant to him. And so that was very special just because of that.
especially with that amazing cast? I mean, anyone could have been nominated for it. To be singled out must have been a great feeling. I mean, it's a cliche question, but where were you when you got the call? Or was it a call?
I was home sleeping. I wasn't expecting it, you know. I was home asleep. I remember getting the call, though it was hard to go back to sleep after. I admit I was a little bit excited. But no, I was just home asleep.
And you've worked with so many amazing directors. You've only mentioned a handful of them so far, but I mean, obviously, you've had great collaborations with so many. What do you hope for from a director when you show up to set?
I hope they know what they're doing. I hope they know what they want. I've worked with many different directors, writer-directors who are very specific. Some that will, like James Gray would love to pull you aside and give you a line reading for literally one word. Like Joaquin Phoenix and I do in this scene, I was supposed to say, Willie, and he'd go, no. Say it like this, Willie. Willie, no. Willie. Willie. And we'll do that for 3 hours, which is fine. I don't mind because, you know, he has a very specific vision, and my job is to service his vision. You know, my job always is to come as prepared as possible, have my own take on the material, know where we are, where we're coming from, and where we're going to, but be prepared to throw all that out the window and try stuff. And, you know, I have no kind of real criteria for the directors I want to work with, just people that I find are interesting and talented and have the same work ethic that I have.
Now, obviously, because your first audition was you weren't even really trying to get the part. You obviously have a very natural, innate talent for this. But was there a point when you started studying with someone, or for a particular role, where you really had to prepare? Because you took it very seriously very early on.
I took it very serious from the second I started. I just said, oh my God, I'm going to do this when I got the part. So I immediately started going back and watching all the movies that my dad introduced me to and the kind of actors that I could identify with and that I related to. So I would go back and watch John Garfield, Robert Ryan, and Steve McQueen, and Jimmy Cagney, and Edward G. Robinson, and guys like that. I could never really identify with, you know, the idols. So I watched guys that reminded me of my dad. But every single time, it really depended on the role, but there wasn't anything that I wouldn't do to prepare for the role. So whether it be The Gambler, you know, spending time with a lot of literary professors all over the country while I was shooting another film, you know, it's just whatever I had to do, I was more than willing because, I mean, I can certainly relate to the underdog. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not supposed to be here right now. Just kind of snuck in the back door, but this one, because, you know, I quit school after the 8th grade. I did go back to get my GED. It was very important for me to not be in a situation where I had to explain to my children why I didn't graduate yet. I forced them to go to school every day. And try to realize how important it is to get an education, because I think that's the biggest regret that I have. But now, hopefully, I'm in a position where I can continue to further my education. But being believable as a literary professor, being able to believe in myself, going out there and saying those words, feeling confident in being in that classroom.
Have your kids seen your movies? I mean, I'm guessing they haven't seen The Departed, but maybe some of the others.
No, they don't understand why they can't see Ted. Because they think, oh, it's just you and the teddy bear, Dad, and then they'll see this one. No, they've seen Invincible, because it's a Disney movie, and my sons, you know, they're both football players. They saw Transformers. I tried to cover their ears for a good portion of it. Anytime there's bad words, my wife is not happy about it. And I took my boys in to see the very beginning of Lone Survivor. But then once the swearing and the blood started happening, I had to take them out.
That must be traumatic for them to see that.
The boy, they love it. No, there's nothing traumatic about it.
Even though it's you?
They love it. I was in the gym this morning at 4:30. Now my wife is getting upset because my kids are waking up at 4:30 in the morning on school days to come and hang out with me in the gym. And if the teacher's writing notes saying 1 o'clock, they're falling asleep in the classroom. What's going on? So I'm in big trouble for that. But this morning we're watching Sports Center, and all of a sudden I turn on some music videos. My son's like, let's hear some music. And for whatever reason, somebody upstairs changed the channel. Or the channel changed, and all of a sudden it was 2 girls fighting in what looked to be a hospital room, and one stabbed the other with a needle when she flipped her and kicked her, and she fell through the window and landed on the floor. I see this, and I run to the remote to change the channel. And my son, my 6-year-old, he's pissed. He's like, why'd you change that channel? I love that movie. I said, you don't even know what that movie is. Yes, I've seen it before, Mommy. Let me see it. Turn back, turn back. I'm like, dude, you're not getting me in any more trouble. But they love it. They you know, they want to see everything that I do, but you know, obviously, it's not appropriate.
I think I auditioned for that movie, actually. So at what point did you start to get involved behind the scenes as a producer? I mean, was it born out of necessity because you wanted to play certain roles, or was it just something you were naturally, something you're not good at? It's actually a little
Many of the things that I'm not good at. You just think about the singing in Boogie Nights. People are always like, how is it? It must have been so hard for you to sing that. I was like, no, that was actually a pretty damn good effort. Sound good. But no, I just always felt like, you know, we're sitting around waiting for so-and-so to pass, or, you know, they like you for this, or we just gotta wait for so-and-so to pass. And I was like, well, I don't want to sit around waiting. You know, I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. So we started finding material and figuring out things that we could develop and build our own brand. And that was really what we were focused on. And the Entourage thing was just kind of like the first way to get into it. As we segued into television, but from that point on, it was always about developing both things for me to star in and produce for other people.
You've also played a number of real people, and you know, obviously, and I know you feel a special connection to bringing these stories to the big screen, be it Mickey Ward in The Fighter or Marcus Luttrell in Lone Survivor. In some ways, is it easier to play these roles because you have so much research to pull from, or is it difficult because it's a living human being who can see these movies?
Well, I certainly feel a huge responsibility to get it right. I mean, my thing is to make them proud, and if they're happy, then I'm okay. But you know, playing a guy like Marcus Luttrell, you feel a huge amount of responsibility to get it right, not only to him, but to his brothers who never made it off that mountain and their family members. The first time I ever did it was in The Perfect Storm, and I went and literally moved in with the Shaffer family at the Crow's Nest at the bar. You know, that's what I feel like I need to involve them, make them feel comfortable about what we're doing and how we're doing it. You know, I don't want to impose in any way, but if this is something that they're supportive of, you know, Mickey Ward and Dickie Eklund lived in my house for quite some time, which is a bit nerve-wracking because Dickie is still a bit of a loose cannon. My wife was like, he's in the house in hell. She saw the documentary and she knew his story, but yeah, I feel a huge responsibility to get it right for them. But also, you know, yeah, you take a huge amount of pride. I mean, Marcus Luttrell being, you know, embraced into the SEAL community and having them thank me for bringing the story to light and doing them justice was a huge honor for me. I came up on the stage after, and as I was coming up on the stage, somebody just said, oh, somebody had mentioned in an interview that they were comparing being an actor to being in Afghanistan. And I was just like, I just sat beside this guy who's had 70 operations, 19 of his brothers died. I was overwhelmed with emotion, so people just thought I was completely wacko when I was talking about how dare anybody make those comparisons. But and every time I've seen the movie with Marcus since, and we spent a lot of time going and promoting the movie and showing it to various people, and it was always the same feeling. I always felt I was overcome with emotion. So that was rough, but yeah, the first time that I saw it was at AFI.
Because that's got to be the one review you really care about.
Yes, oh, it's the only one. The great James Toback was here tonight, and I showed him the movie early on in New York. And actually, when he came to Boston, I had to get him on my own turf in case he didn't like the movie. We could try to convince him. But I wanted to show him the movie, and he loved the movie. There was obviously certain things that he's never gonna really love about the movie because he has his own movie that he's very proud of, as am I. We were inspired by that. And also showing Jimmy Kahn. I invited Jimmy Kahn over to my house to show him the movie. I talked to him about it beforehand. We worked together on the yards, and we have a great relationship. But I wanted to show him the movie, and I wanted him to like it. And coincidentally, I have a row of pictures in my basement with some of my favorite actors. And James Cagney is there, Steve McQueen, John Garfield, and Jimmy Kahn. And this was a post that I was giving, somebody had given me this gift a long time ago, and I put it up, and he walked in the house, he goes, did you just put that up because you know what I'm coming over? I said, no, and he goes, this is just, has nothing to do with anything, it was really funny. So I said, Jimmy, can I get you a drink? He goes, yeah, give me a vodka. I goes, well, what do you want in it? He goes, a fucking quail sandwich, I just want vodka. What do you think of it? I was like, shit, is this how it's gonna go? But, loved the movie. Wanted to call Toback and give him shit. Toback wanted me to call him when Jimmy and I were done, so me and him could give Jimmy shit, but I just figured those guys could give each other shit on their own. I just was hoping that they really liked the movie.
So you have James Caan seal of approval. You should tell them you're doing rollerball next.
They did that.
They did that,
They
you're
fucked
right.
that one up already.
So let's get it right this time.
Oh no, I can't roller skate. That's another thing about it. Roller skate, I think they wore spandex in that too. I don't wear spandex, but
So you have, the people who matter sign off on these performances. How much of all that all do you pay attention to critics?
I always read the good ones. It's funny because J.C. Shandor and I are doing a movie together. Very excited about it. Very excited about his movie. Most of the year. I actually was sitting in a room with him the other day. Lorenzo Ventura, and I was talking about how he reads all his reviews because he wants to gather as much information as possible. I've been doing this. This is his third movie. I've been doing this for quite some time. I've done 39 movies, so you know when to read them and not to read them. But don't take the good ones too serious either. My philosophy is always like I give my all to the movie, especially as a producer, even in the promotion and the marketing of the film, until the movie is done and then I walk away. And then I try to focus on the next one, and I'm always about the next one. Because you don't want to let it beat you down. You don't want to get your head blown up either. You want to kind of just make it about the work.
And speaking of what is up next, I know you have some stuff you're producing, and I believe Ted 2 is on the way.
Just finished shooting Ted 2. That is done. I go to New Orleans very soon to shoot a movie with Will Ferrell. We're back doing another comedy, and then we're doing a movie with JC. Yeah.
I just realized.
And we're trying desperately to get American Desperado done. So I'm trying to remind Paramount that I'm going to make that movie. But you know what? Like The Fighter, we just keep pushing and pushing, and it's really about getting the script perfect. Bill Monahan also wrote that script, so.
It's surprising to hear that you have difficulty getting a movie made.
You don't have difficulty getting the big ones that are going to make them a lot of money made. It's the little ones that are the risky ones. But we've proven that we have a pretty good formula. Between myself and Steve Levinson and I, my partner, we figured out a way to make them a lot less money. Working in television really helped us to make movies on the cheap without compromising what we put on the screen. Just convincing people movie's a success, then they'll share and reap the rewards. And if not, we'll kind of go out there and try to win together. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
By the way, I just realized your character in Ted is John Bennett.
Yes, John and Jim Bennett, no relation.
Are you sure?
I mentioned it, but they were like, that's no big deal. You were the first person to point it out, by the way.
Well, everyone
Somebody's
knows.
paying attention to you.
No, I just like to imagine some sort of crossover universe where the gambler can be Ted.
Yes, well, the next movie, and that is a possibility.
If you make that, I bet they'll make your small movie for you.
Yeah, well, we can throw Flash Gordon in the mix.
At this point, I do want to talk some more about The Gambler, and we were fortunate enough to have one of your co-stars, the amazing John Goodman, here tonight. There he is. And also the fantastic director,
It's the only time I'll ever climb stairs to get on the stage.